one thing about Christmas is anticipation. I just look at the kids. Are you guys anticipating Christmas? Do you know what I mean by that? Are you excited that Christmas is coming? What are you excited about? All right, good. That's good. That's the answer I want. But here's the answer that you guys are all thinking. The presents, right? All right. I don't have to count you guys. Yeah, growing up when I was a child, anticipation was always built on what am I going to get for Christmas. And the way my family did, our tradition was that when my parents were buying gifts and we were buying gifts for each other, we will immediately wrap them up and then put them right underneath the tree. And so usually like a week, 2 weeks before Christmas, slowly but surely all these presents start to gather around the Christmas trees as they were coming in. And of course, when you see a new present there, what did you do? You go to the present and you immediately look, who is it for? And I remember one year, I got this huge box. And it was heavy. And of course, you pick it up, you examine it, you shake it, you try, what could this possibly be? What are my parents going to give me this year? Then you see who is it from, and usually from my sisters it would be some little tiny crumb up piece of wrapping paper, And then from my parents, something big, and your mind is filled with all the possibilities of what this could be, and it's this great anticipation builds up. And you can't wait for, well, for us, it was December 24th, that evening at Christmas Eve, when we'll come home from church, and finally we can unwrap our presents and find out what it is. And that big box, it was a train set. I was a little disappointed. I was expecting, a video game or something, but hindsight, it was a very fun toy, very something I didn't expect. But that's what anticipation. Christmas is about that anticipation for all of us. But a lot of times it's built on the wrong things. Again, the real joy is we talk about what child it is. Who is this Jesus? Let our anticipation, our excitement be built on Him. So, last 6 months, starting back in June, we began this epic sermon series, this journey through the Bible of the Old Testament. And starting with Genesis, we see God creating this world, this perfect place for us, perfect people, Adam and Eve, without sin, without hatred, loving God and loving each other, and everything is perfect. And then they fell into sin. They disobeyed God and His Word. And so what brought upon that was that curse, that punishment from God. But it begins this anticipation, this long journey. And that's really what the Old Testament is really about, this anticipation of that promise that God made to Adam and Eve long time ago, that He will send a child. And this child will defeat Satan. And so as we've been going through all summer long and in the fall up to right now, we've been seeing the events and the stories and the account of this anticipation of God remind His people, just remember me. Remember the promise. In the right time, I will give you this gift. And so we go from Noah into the Tower of Babel to Abraham and his family, his son Isaac and his son Jacob, and Jacob's son Joseph, and plus the 12 sons of Jacob, and their slavery in Egypt, and their freedom from Egypt through Moses, and leading them into the wilderness, to worship God, and eventually lead into the promised land. And they're getting to the promised land where they conquer it for their own, and they begin to grow and spread throughout that promised land, that land of Canaan, and make it their own. And you get the time of the judges. You got Samson and Deborah, Gideon. And then from there you go into the kings of King Saul, King David, and King Solomon. And through all this time, this history, there's the great ups of Israel where they're faithful to God. They remember His word, they remember His promise, and look forward to that future with anticipation of what God's going to do for them. But there's also times where they forgot about God. They don't remember Him. And that eventually led to all of Israel to be conquered by their enemies as they lived in exile from their home. But again, last couple Sundays, as they said, they did make their way back. But this begins like a 500-year period of quietness from God. They come back to Israel, they rebuild Jerusalem, they even rebuild the temple. They start to relive the covenant and their heritage of sacrifices, of worship and prayers to God, to keep the Passover, circumcise your children. All this to remember what God had promised to them. But God was quiet. And they waited with great anticipation because they didn't know what God was going to do. And then finally what we celebrate this week is God keeping His promise. When He wasn't quiet anymore, but finally He sent us His Son. Let it be our prayer this week, this year, as it should be every year, that what we anticipate, as Tommy, knowing me and knowing the right answer, correctly said, that the anticipation is that Christ was born unto us. That Christ came to be our Savior. What is this child? It's God in the flesh. This child is going to be our Savior. This child is going to be our God. This child is going to change the whole world. And this child, finally, of all the children born in this world, but this child is finally going to take us back to the garden. Take us back to what Adam and Eve before they mess everything up. They're taking it, He is going to take us back to our Father in heaven. And so come Christmas with joy and excitement, with peace in our hearts. Let's celebrate and worship this child who has come to save us. Amen.